Good afternoon and welcome to United TV. This is Kemal Erkan. I'm here with Sean Donegan. Today is February 2nd, 2024. Another political episode that we are going to have for our new series. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy February.
Happy February. So before we take too long, I do want to bring our guest. So first time we have a Republican candidate who's going to be with us, Donyale Hall. She is running for U.S. Congress, and let's bring her in and we'll start the conversation. Good afternoon, Donyale. How are you doing?
I'm well. I was just adjusting my tech so that I could see you properly on my screen. I apologize. I'm moving around.
No problem. You look just fine, and you sound good as well. So we are gonna go ahead and start with our episode for today. I was just saying that you are our first Republican candidate. So thank you for joining us. I know we were scheduled originally last Friday, and you had some family emergencies. I didn't want to actually get into it last week and then even today, but so one of those things I always kind of recheck some of the things that I'm going to say and I'm going to do. Sometimes it happens with my office, people like Sean and others, and sometimes with my family. So now you have 10 kids.
I do.
Right? So, I was first, like when I heard that, I had to just read it a couple times to make sure that was the right info, right news. So now, of course, you had some emergencies with one of your daughters, but having 10 kids, that's like a huge responsibility. First, God bless you. So not sure how you did it, but I am just, I can't even imagine what a how big responsible that is. So if you want to tell us what happened last week, feel free about it. If not, then we'll go into the education. And I guess there wouldn't be anyone better than you who speaks on education, especially with public school systems. So we can start from there.
Well, thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for your patience and understanding for last week. Many people know already, it's been publicly put out there that I am a survivor of domestic violence, and my two youngest are also survivors of a very terrible tragedy. And I've had some very difficult times with one of the younger girls, and she has had to have some extra trauma treatment around the therapeutic side of what she's been dealing with. And I know that you have a medical platform, so it's appropriate to talk about. I've learned a lot through this experience that behavioral health definitely is a medical need within not only the state of Delaware. The alarming statistics across the nation are that there are a lot of traumas around domestic violence, and I've had to learn through my experience how important it is to have increased access to resources to be able to increase better health outcomes and keeping costs low. And I think that Delaware could use some more funding in its medical community where behavioral health is concerned. So I'm going to be very loudly advocating for that because of my personal experiences. So yes, I do have 10 beautiful children. I have 6 girls and 4 boys. And I tell people that I'm proud to say that 8 of them have emancipated themselves from my wallet. I have 2 full-timers that are still at home. They are middle schoolers. So I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's no twins and there's no triplets. The oldest is 34 and the youngest will be 12 in a few weeks. So there's quite an age spread.
So I had a puppy for 14 years. I lost him last year in 2020.
Sorry to hear that.
2022 actually. And then I got a new one 3 months after that. And I don't have kids. So for me, it's like my puppy is like my child. So when I got the second one, and because I hadn't had this experience for a long time, and the first one did kind of suffer in the last couple of years. So I'm like, maybe should I get like two? And I'm like, like I can't handle that. So that's too much responsibility. So then I have, I have help in the house. I have a lot of support. And I'm like, no, I can't just deal with two. And I'm on the board of Brandywine SPCA. So I feel like I'm obligated to at least have one shelter dog. And I still don't, although Sean got one, maybe on my behalf. Thank you.
Okay.
But, that's a huge responsibility. So
Yes.
now I'm gonna ask you, so who's your favorite between the 12 to the 34?
Oh no, we don't have that. And it's funny because the kids
My parents have one, but go ahead.
look, that they all argue which one is my favorite. And depending on which child, they'll tell you this one is the favorite because of this particular characteristic. So I love all of my babies. I can remember my mom saying that she hoped that I had a whole house full and all of them be just like me. And so that was my mother curse and blessing. My children are awesome. I think each of them takes a facet of my personality and runs it all the way to the extreme. So it's fun.
That's such a blessing. That's great. So I'm one of four, and I'm really close to my sisters. And every once in a while, I think about them. I'm like, I wish I had like four more or five more sisters like them. But then, it's kind of also dicey. Like, yeah, they come in different shapes and different characters too. But I'm so glad that you are able to have what you have. Now, this is one of our main topics, and I don't know if you are following what we do on YouTube, but also on social media platforms. We try to get the information with some of the surveys that we have, and some of them are internal, some of them are US based. And education is usually right on the top five. Depending on who we ask, I guess it can be like up to like top three. Education also is one of the most important part of what we do. And having 10 kids and going through public school systems, I believe almost all of them are, right, from public school?
Yes.
So you probably have firsthand, you had the most experience and knowing what the system does, what the system needs. So as a congresswoman, once you are elected, what are the things that you would be doing on the education side?
Well, let me just share a little bit about what's going on Delaware soil as it pertains to education and why education is such a passion for me. In a state that spends more per child than most in the country, we are achieving at the bottom nationally for our education outcomes here. And so the latest statistic is that at the eighth grade level, 40% of our eighth graders are on reading level, 30% are on math level. And if you're Black or brown in the state of Delaware, then that drops significantly. And so I was educated here in the state of Delaware in public education. I'm a graduate of Cesar Rodney High School, the class of 1987, so I'm 54 years old. My children, out of all my children, 5 are CR grads as well. 3 graduated from the early college high school at Delaware State University, and my 2 youngest are currently in middle school here. So it is true. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of our education system. I can significantly see where implementation strategies for different schools across the state, there's no one size fits all when it comes down to the education needs here in our state. But one of the consistent underlying things that could be done is being able to give parents a more expansive choice as to their child's education. And so nationally, we've seen some things that have helped in areas for parents to have more access to better education outcomes for their children, giving school choice, which I'm extremely for. We saw in COVID that going into remote learning, that had some very devastating effects to our children. And the children that are coming out of high school right now are coming out neither career nor college ready, which is quite concerning. I've seen some trends here within the state and with my own children's education. The push is more towards college education. There are a lot of children that are coming out of our high schools, and they really don't want to go to college. And it seems that that's the track that they've been placed on. And so you see a prevalence of some of our young people coming out of college with degrees that are not marketable. They can't find suitable employment to leverage their college debt. It's having a staggering effect across not only the state of Delaware, but across the country with our young folks. And so I'd like to see us do more things that give the controls to parents as to the educational opportunities, whether it be homeschooling if they feel that they are better served being homeschooled, whether it's putting their child in a school setting where their education dollars can follow that particular child to get a better outcome. I think that we certainly have that within our purview to do. And at the national level, I would like to give parents across the nation a say in how their child is educated to be able to achieve the best outcomes from education.
So one question that comes to my mind is because of the range of the ages of your kids from 34 to 12, so you have seen what the education system was 20, 25 years ago versus what it is today. Between the oldest one and youngest one, what are the biggest differences that you see in terms of how they actually take the education system, but also what difficulties they go through?
Well, I think that's a very important question. And because I have so many children, no two of them were alike. Some wanted to go to college. I had my second from the oldest. She set the bar very high for the rest of the children. She was in the top 8 of her graduating class. She actually had a full scholarship, academic scholarship to Georgetown University over in DC. At the end of that 4 years, I think I showed the kids her beautiful degree, and I said, this education costs $250,000. That's a lot of money to have a quality education. And she was one of the lucky undergrads that come out and was able to step into good employment opportunities. So she started out making almost 6 figures coming out of undergrad. So, she's certainly a success story for college track. However, I've had children that weren't overachievers and that I was having to pull across the finish line. Those children would definitely have benefit from other tracks to the trades, for instance. And I think that we missed the mark a lot here in the state of Delaware and even across the nation by not giving our children a more viable pathways to other opportunities other than college education. I think that's very important to be able to leverage those opportunities as well.
Let's see. Well, this election is going to be slightly maybe different than any others. We were just talking earlier. I was born and raised in Turkey, and in the last 25 years I've been here. So half of my life I was there, and the other half I was here. And I know you have some ties to Turkey. You spent some time there. You were in the U.S. Air Force.
Yes.
And those are adding a lot of qualifications to what you are actually running for. So now, in terms of our U.S. foreign relationships, one of our surveys that we had, most people, I believe the number was about 78% of the people right now, they don't believe that fair, the foreign relationship actually is, they don't believe that we are doing a good job. Now, having this picture in place, of course, this is Twitter, so then you have to make some adjustments. But if maybe it's not 78% or 73%, maybe it's 60%, but it's vast majority. They don't agree with what's happening today. What are the plans that you have for U.S. foreign relations?
Well, as a prior service member myself, there are 3 generations of service in my family. My father moved to Delaware in 1973, stationed here through the Air Force. And so he served 26 years. He was a Vietnam veteran. He actually lost his life back in 2019 from his exposures to Agent Orange. He had all of the cancers and all of the health issues, and he really died without his dignity at the hands of a very broken VA system. And so I'm very passionate about our veterans issues. I served in support of Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm in the early 90s, and I have 2 sons that have followed the family legacy of service. The younger of those 2 boys, he just actually got out of the Air Force, and the recent tragedies that we've seen over in Jordan, my son actually was deployed to that area of the world, and it could have very easily have been someone showing up at my door to let me know that my child had been lost over there, and of that very tragic moment. And so when it comes to our men and women that wear the uniform, I will be a very strong advocate to make sure that whatever the U.S. involves itself militarily overseas, that we do right by our service members. So I have a passion to make sure that I'm going to be very vocal about foreign affairs and how we interact with other countries.
Now, from the same from the foreign relations to the border security, they are kind of like related in a way that both how we are actually how we are interacting with other countries, but also how we are protecting our countries here. So recent development, there are a lot of issues in the south border, and what would you do as a congresswoman once you are there? What are the things that you would be able to do to change certain things? Because right now, 68% of the people, they believe that U.S. border security should be increased. That's the poll that we have. What are the things that you would be able to do?
Well,
Or
I think that's
what are the things that you feel like that's not being done correctly right now?
That's a very important question because people's sense of security is important. And I think I've heard that a lot along the last couple of administrations as to what we do about what appears to be a crisis at our southern border. I certainly believe in a couple of different things. I have children who are firstborn natural citizens in this country, and I'm very sensitive to the needs of the immigrant population. I think that in order to really effectively talk about how people enter this country, you have to be cognizant of the fact that immigration is far more encompassing than just people who are entering our country illegally. I think that if people are seeking asylum because of whatever reason, that was where our country was founded. We have immigrants to this country because people needed to have that ability, especially in times of conflict. And so I think that we are mismanaging how people are entering this country. I think that conversation has a sense of urgency, and that we need to be humane in our approach on how we execute a border security policy. There are a lot of folks that are in this country, even legally now, that don't have a pathway to citizenship, that I think that bureaucracy and red tape could be immensely streamlined to give people viable paths pathways to citizenship in our country. So I will be a strong voice in that conversation as to what we can do to secure our border and our national security, and also give people who are seeking citizenship in this country a streamlined pathway to that citizenship.
So, I mean, it's kind of like worrying in a way that I'm worried the way that I see certain things, and why would, if we go to, let's say, Middle East to protect our interest here in this country, like we are thousands of miles away from it, and there are two huge oceans in between, right? But then we do that to protect our own interest. Yet when it comes to the border, we are not being so efficient, or we are not maybe taking so seriously. And I just don't understand that. And
I think that it really has to do a lot with just approach to the conversation. And it's a very sad reality that divisive partisan rhetoric impedes our decision making as to approach. I think that some of these things have been very heavily politicized in such a way that meaningful dialogue on how to address the issue is lost in the conversation. So I think for that reason, it's very important to have people in office who can have a practical approach to a conversation, to be able to figure out where the common ground is, and how to execute an implementation strategy that keeps our nation secure domestically.
so I'm hoping that one of the other things that I'm also a little bit worried about is, especially this being in Texas, and the issues with the Supreme Court decision, and who's going to actually take over, who's responsible, and there's that overlapping, and now 25 states are supporting Texas, and it's kind of like every time I say something won't happen, it does happen, just like COVID would never be happening. So I'll tell you something, maybe not funny necessarily, but kind of like in a sad, funny, one of those anecdotes. I was talking to my brother-in-law back in Turkey in February 2020, and I was in Turkey visiting. We do have business offices there. And he asked me about COVID that time, and I said, look, this is just like another flu, like it's a stronger flu. Things are going to be okay. We don't have to worry about it. I in fact remember saying that like every year, 60 to 90,000 people die from flu. So it's not going to be bad. So this is what I said. So, and then 2 months later, we were all home, close our offices, close our schools, close our every other government building, and the life became very different for everyone. So then other things happen in politics, and that means every time we say, no, this will never happen, it does happen. Now, where I'm going with this one is, do you think there is a chance of a civil war with all these issues that we have today in the southern border, with Texas leading what's happening today, and also these 24 or 25 states supporting them, and there's this conflict between the federal government and the states? Do you see any potential issue in terms of maybe getting into some type of civil war?
Well, I think that contextually, you are absolutely correct that we have people from opposing viewpoints within our own country. Now, do I think that that's going to precipitate to a bloodbath of sorts? I would hope that it doesn't come to that. I would like to think that the people of the United States have a air of civility enough that we could be able to have effective voices come to the table and find a reasonable, rational solution. And I think that that has to, again, come systemically from having someone who is capable of bringing people together and finding common ground. So could it potentially escalate to that? Anything is possible. But I do believe that, we could have voices like mine who would be able to come prepared to have a dialogue that results in a executable strategy that we can implement to deal with the crisis on our southern border.
So now running as a Republican for Congress, do we on the Republican side, are there going to be a primary, someone challenging you, or are you the one?
Currently, I am the lone Republican, and so I'm eagerly awaiting for our very late primary. Delaware's primary isn't until September. I know that that was something that was going through our legislature last session to move our primary to earlier in the year. And I know that it didn't pass through both chambers to be able to move the primary. So it looks like it's going to be a very short turnaround from the September primary to the November election. I'm fairly confident that I will be unopposed. Primaries are difficult, and as I'm watching it unravel on the Democrat side for this particular office, I've seen the interaction between the candidates. It doesn't seem that it's going to be a blood sport of sorts because primaries can get very ugly. It seems that the group of candidates is diverse, and each one tends to bring a different strength to their platform. I feel very blessed that I check a lot of boxes, so you don't have to decide, whether or not you're getting a series of trade-offs with one candidate or another with me. As a veteran, I bring that to the table. I'm also a small business owner, so I bring that business acumen to the table. As a mom of 10 beautiful children, we talked about just how the firsthand experiences and we haven't even scratched the surface of some of the things that I've personally had to endure at failed and broken Delaware policy that continues to hurt people on Delaware soil. So, I think that I have a pretty clear pathway to the general election, and I'm looking forward to whoever is cross ballot for us to have, some interesting comparison and contrast as to what each will bring to this office as a representative voice of the people of Delaware.
So I think what's happening right now on the other side, there are three leading candidates running for the primaries: Sarah McBride, Eugene Davis, and also Colleen Young, I believe.
Eugene Young and
I'm sorry,
Colleen
Colleen
Davis.
Davis,
It's
and
okay. I knew what you meant.
I have the names in front of me, and then I try not to pay attention to those. So now. My projection is most likely you are going to face with Sarah McBride. Now, Sarah is going to be a really strong opponent, and she is extremely well known. Her name recognition is very high, and she has a lot of experience, even though she's still young, but she's been in politics for a long time. Now, what are the things that you are going to be able to kind of take advantage of in that race to win this race? Because in Delaware, historically, it's been like, I don't know if we can actually label Delaware as a blue state yet. Maybe it's already done, or maybe it will be, but it's going to be difficult for a Republican to win. That's already a challenge. And I'm not saying that it will happen or it won't happen, but I'm just going with the statistics. Now, having Sarah as an opponent is going to be even more difficult. So, how are you planning to overcome this challenge?
Well, although I have never held political office, I have served on a number of different boards and in varying capacities of leadership in some of the organizations. This is not my first run for political office. And to kind of speak to your point about the state's political partisan makeup. Each county is very unique. We have 3 counties here in the state of Delaware, and the northern county, Newcastle County, is what I would consider to be more blue, more Democrat. In Kent, I think that we tend to be 50-50, so I would characterize us as purple here. And the southernmost county of the state tends to be red or more Republican. And so there are different pockets of voters that each candidate is going to have to find their voice to be able to garner support in each county. Back in 2020, I ran for lieutenant governor. I was able to garner cross-party support. I, of course, had the Republican endorsement. I had the endorsement of the Independent Party, and I had some very high-level endorsements within the Democrat community. Trippy Congo, council president in Wilmington, actually publicly endorsed me. And that spoke volumes to the type of candidate that I am. I am not rooted in partisanship. I believe that we are a representative form of government, and that it is critical that who we elect be representative of our voices. And so for that reason, my story speaks and resonates with voters all across the state. I'm very educated, so I can speak in 5-syllable words if I need to. I've had some hardships and some bumps and some bruises across the span of my life, which makes me very relatable to working families that are struggling and trying to manage the things that keep the lights on in the home and give their children opportunities for their good education. I also, well, my experience in the military, I was aircraft maintenance. And so my business is in general contracting currently. And so I'm a working schmuck. So, even though people see me cleaned up nicely on my literature or my website, if you see me in the community, I have steel toe boots on and I have jeans and I have a sweatshirt, and often I'm covered in drywall dust or paint or grass. It's the ability to communicate and articulate people's truths to power that I believe will be pivotal in this particular election cycle, because I think people are very tired of the partisan rhetoric that keeps us divided, that they're going to be looking for somebody who will have a voice that will be unifying, and a platform that speaks to growth over decline. I think those are the things that are important to Delaware voters, and I think that I come very well armed and versed to win the hearts of the people at the polls in November.
So one of the issues that I see again for this election time, for this elections, the two two candidates for presidency who are running between Trump and Biden, and the things that happened to Donald Trump after he left the office, some would call it maybe politically motivated. And probably it works for him because when you are the underdog, people kind of like that, and then they do kind of support those. And then now there are a lot of questions around Biden's second term, whether or not he should be running. I believe we did another survey. I asked, these surveys are kind of like therapeutical. If you ever feel like you need one, you can always run it through Twitter. You just need to promote it so you can get more responses. So one of the questions that I had was whether or not he should be, Joe Biden should be running for a second term. And I believe more than 60%, Sean will be helping me on that. I think 62 or 63% said no, he should not be running. And then when I asked the second follow-up question to that was, who should be running for his place? Surprisingly, Michelle Obama, with 41%, she was number one, and then I think the California governor was Gavin Newsom. He was number two. So, what would you say on the presidential side of the race? What are your takes on that? Who's going to win? Of course, you are the Republican, so you're going to say probably Trump, but what are the challenges that you see on that side?
So when it comes to the presidency, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat along with much of the rest of the country, just watching the blood sport that is politics unfold in front of our eyes. It's unfortunate that depending on who you're polling, what people feel, and I get the sense that most people feel like, what are we going to do? Select the lesser of two evils, and that's a sad day for our country. That the confidence around any of these candidates is not great, and I think that the uniqueness of our legislature here in the state, even in 2020 when I was running for lieutenant governor, and the questions that circulated around Trump being at the top of the ticket on the Republican side. I've had to really encourage people to be sensible about who does what politically. And just like our Delaware legislature, the laws and the policies are crafted in our House of Representatives and our Senate. And even at the national level, our nation's policies are crafted in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And I think it's important that we not lose sight of the fact that this race is key and critical to put the right voice in there, because this is where our policies come from, is from the House of Representatives and again, the Senate. And so my focus is to challenge people to not be distracted by the noise that's at the very top of the ticket, and focus on instead, finding a voice that is going to represent us well in the state of Delaware in this lone at-large seat in the House of Representatives. And I feel that I'm that voice all day long that'll make the difference. So that's the way I kind of choose to get people's minds wrapped around politics these days. It's an ugly business, but we have an opportunity to control at least some of the things that we need to get done as far as the issues are concerned for the American people.
So, Donyale, there are several different topics that we have for the elections, and one of the other things that you mentioned in the beginning, but we were going to get into that later. So I think every time we ask people to rank the issues, crime is another one that actually is either rank 4 or rank 5. So it's one of the big ones. And you mentioned something earlier, being a victim of domestic violence, but crime on this one kind of more kind of like generic. What are the things that we are doing wrong these days that it's actually not making these crime-related issues better? Because there are now so many news that you are actually getting from different parts of the country, a lot of drug-related issues, a lot of mental health-related issues, and it's not, there isn't any indications saying that things are getting better. So definitely something is wrong with what we are doing. What are the things that we can do, or what are the things that we can change to make here in Delaware and United States safer from where we are today?
Thank you for that very important question. It's something that I have frequently talked about over the last 10 years. One of the things that I think people fail to make the very relevant connection is that there's a direct correlation between crime and poverty. And when you look at a state like Delaware, for instance, where the median income rests somewhere around 56,000, and that a substantial amount of people living in Delaware live well below that level, there are underlying socioeconomics that are tied directly to poverty and hence crime. And so I think that we miss the mark oftentimes when we have people who seek to put a Band-Aid on a gushing problem. We're very we're very responsive. We are a reactionary instead of proaction. Proactive, taking stances proactively to address these issues. And so I understand the knee-jerk reaction across the nation and even in Delaware, that there are things that shock our conscience when it comes to crime, and we seek to scurry to make it have an appearance that we're doing something, to put a Band-Aid on that particular problem at the moment. But it's much deeper than that. And until we have people who are willing to do the deep dive and address the underlying socioeconomics, fix our education system, give good paying jobs to people. I mean, it's a sad reality that people are finding more lucrative opportunity doing the wrong thing than the right thing. And so the corrective measure has to be turning that conversation around and identifying things that we need long-term fixes for, and address them and implement them.
So the drug-related issues with the crime actually probably is one of the big contributor to the bad outcome that we have. I guess maybe it's like readily available or too easy to get or too inexpensive, but this is probably just escalating the issue. I mean, at least also traveling different countries and seeing what's happening there. I don't see it at this level. So the way that we have today here in the United States is not the same in other countries. I think there has to be some way of getting this under control. Like there are some videos that I see in social media, and my initial reaction is like, okay, so this probably is not a real video. Don't pay attention. But then you see it again and again and again from reliable sources. In fact, I told Sean one of our projects is to travel to some of these regions. Like Philadelphia has one. I'm sure Wilmington may have one too, but it's not as bad as Philadelphia. Just to get our own videos, but then I'm worried about getting into trouble, because what if those are real videos, right? So I think that's something that needs to be kind of like looked into, and then we need to take better precautions to prevent and protect the young, those who are not able to make the best decisions for themselves. So I still don't see a really good control over the drug issues. Like San Francisco is in horrible shape, and you would think that it's not real, but it is real. So Philadelphia, and there are other places in the country that's suffering from these issues, and we really need to do something quickly to get things better. And everyone needs to do much more than what we are doing today. So now, the way that we wanted to have these political series is to have everyone at least once, and then once we finish everyone, then we want to invite you guys again, getting closer to the elections. And I'm sure we have other things that we want to talk about, but we won't be able to do all of them today. But did you want to add anything today for those who are looking for you, who wants to learn your policies, your plans, anything that you would like to add?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with your audience. I see that your viewership has a very robust following, and so I'm honored to have been included. Of course, people can travel to my website. That's DonyaleForDelaware.com, and all of my contact information is there. I'm very passionate about earning a person's vote. I think that it's important to be accessible to the people, and for that reason, my cell phone is there. People often are taken aback when they call that number and they actually reach me, and they think that it's just a campaign number, but that is my actual phone number, and I will respond very quickly. I think my response time is usually within 24 hours. So I'm happy to to earn a vote. I'm happy to talk with people about what is important to them. You know, your issue might be different from my issue, and the next person's issue might be different from the both of us. And some people are very single issue driven in the state of Delaware. And at the end of all of this, I want for people to understand that first and foremost, while I may have my personal view on a particular issue, I would not be representing the voices if it was all about what I felt or thought. And I think that it's important that whoever represents us in this very important seat needs to have an ear for the things that are concerning to the people first and foremost. So I would just like to let your audience know that I'm available to answer any of the questions that they have, and also to let them know that I would be a representation of the voices, and it's not about Donyale or Donyale Hall or any of Donyale's views. It's about being a voice for the people.
Well, we want to have a fair race, and we wish you the best. I know with all the qualifications that you have, regardless of what happens, I know at the end of the day, Delaware is going to win. You seem like, I mean, we never met before, and I felt like this was a great conversation, and I believe that you are sincere with things that you are saying. And it's going to be a difficult race, but it's until it's over, it's not over. So I wish you the best, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to revisiting later about the other issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Sean, you can join back. So this was a great conversation.
Yes.
What was your take?
Well, a couple things right there. So, with her recap or closing statement that she says she's at the end, I
Mhm.
think it's notable amongst various candidates that we've had is that it seems like one of the main approaches that they have in relating to the voters is not to see them as just their party, whether it's the cliche ideas that maybe their party supports or goes against, but rather that there seems like regardless of who we have on the show, they're trying to find that common middle ground. And they always talk about how they're trying to relate to the broader general public.
Mhm.
As she mentioned, you know, she might feel one way on a certain specific issue, but that doesn't mean that's all she's worried about. Like you have to take in the full effect of everything that does impact a very diverse group of people from very north Newcastle all the way down to Sussex, as she was mentioning.
So, you know, what I remember, one of the comments that you made regarding tennis. So when you were watching, you said, it seems like they're not going just for one person. So if there are fair games, fair points, if someone is playing really well, even if they are not going for that person, the tennis audience still supports everyone. So, but when you go to a football or the basketball game, so you belong to one team, and regardless of whatever the other team does,
Right.
you hate them. So I was kind of hearing that kind of. I think that's what we have to be doing from the reverse side. Whoever's running, they need to really see this as like not just like the Democrat or the Republican, but the Delawareans, and that's kind of like the approach should be. So that way, it's not necessarily you're on the other side. We are going to hate you, and we are not going to go after your interest. So that cannot be what this race is.
No, yeah, that's where you're saying like when someone says you're far left or far right, it means no matter what happens, I'm always, you know, it's that extremist approach. But again, like you're saying, it's good to be able to see the pros and cons from each side if you're kind of in that middle looking at each side equally.
All right. Well, we are going to have Bariatric Friday at 3 p.m. We'll be back. Well, thank you for watching us. Thank you for joining us. We'll have other people confirmed as our guest. So we'll be back with so many new updates and so many new guests who's going to be part of this show. And again, thank you for watching.